Hello, everyone. I'm Keith DeStone, your host for HeroesX Office Hours, in this case, the 13th version of HeroesX. And I'm here again with Greg, Nagy, and Sarah, and Janet, and Elen, as usual. And we're discussing hours 3 and 4. Get right to it. The hour 3 question is, in another world, divorced from the world of the Iliad, could you imagine a man like Achilles falling in love with a woman like Andromache? Achilles and Andromache. What do folks have to say about it?
Yeah, there's a mention of Andromache's name, and the participant is wondering if it means Andro man and Machic fight or combat.
Yes.
And so he's wondering if, since she could be considered as a fighter and therefore similar to Achilles, could this attract Achilles?
A beautiful question, and my own answer would be yes. Just as, after all, Penthesilea, the Amazon, who does not appear directly in our Iliad, but who definitely appears in other traditions that are related to the Homeric tradition. Penthesilea is an enemy of Achilles, but also a kind of female version of Achilles. Amazons are, after all, warriors, and I'm thinking of the tradition, which I talk about in the book Ancient Greek Hero in 24 Hours, where Achilles falls in love with Penthesilea, but it's too late. It's at the exact moment when he strikes the mortal blow in their one-on-one combat to the death. And of course, that's when their eyes meet. And that's where the firing of the synapses happens. And that's when he falls in love. Too late.
This is an interesting question. Can Achilles of Homer really love a woman? Is falling in love a Homeric question?
Yes, it is a Homeric question. What a cleverly phrased question by the participant. I would say that if you look at Iliad 1, you say, nah, this particular character is incapable of falling in love with a woman. But by the time we go to Iliad 9, there seems to have been a kind of shift in the emotional makeup of Achilles. And he says sarcastically in Iliad 9, is it only the sons of Atreus, in other words, Agamemnon and Menelaus, is it only the sons of Atreus who love their wives? And then he goes on to say how he, Achilles, loves Briseis, even though she is just a captive. And the implication is he loves her as if she were a wife. And that's very different for me than what I thought I saw in Iliad 1, where Briseis seems to be simply a kind of index, a kind of placeholder for how Achilles values himself. And it's almost as if she were no more than human property, as a, what's that horrible expression in contemporary English, a trophy wife.
On that subject, someone has pointed out that, talking about Briseis, she is a captive, and the prizes, as I understand it, were distributed according to merit, that being one of the reasons why Achilles reacts the way he does. But that if he were to conquer Troy, which we know he won't quite get that far, but if he were to conquer Troy, then Andromache would be one of the biggest prizes. So he would deserve her. He might therefore love her in the same way that you were talking about with Briseis.
Yes, and of course Achilles' clock is different from other people's clocks. And in any case, he dies before Troy falls. But let's look at it this way. It's his son who gets to carry off Andromache as a war prize. And here we get into the complicated question, how old is the son of Achilles? Is he only 10 years old? My mathematics has never been good, but I think that's the way it shakes out.
Epic time doesn't quite add up, does it?
Yes, he too has a different clock than other males.
But another question that someone's brought up about Andromache is, despite her name, she is counseling Hector not to fight. And they were wondering, well, Achilles, maybe that wouldn't go down too well with Achilles, because he would think we should go and fight.
Well, but that's the problem with Andromache is she marries a very defensive warrior. After all, Hector means Mr. Defense, the protector, somebody who's not supposed to venture out of the citadel and is supposed to stay put and guard the citadel. If he had done that, he'd be alive. Well, he'd be alive longer. And here's another thing, which is that the name of Briseis, Briseis, I'm not saying this is the genuine etymology, but it is what linguists sometimes call folk etymology or synchronic etymology. The BRI does suggest military prowess, the powers of a warrior, as opposed to Chryseis, who was the trophy woman awarded to Agamemnon. And Chryseis clearly means gold, as in Mycenae, rich in gold. So in other words, the distribution of these captive women to these various heroes is also coded. And in a sense, Achilles was awarded a woman with an Amazonian past in her own right.
Well, let's move on to the second question, one for hour 4. If you have developed a liking for Achilles as you read more and more of the Iliad, what new thing would you still need to see if you wanted to like him even more? Alternatively, if you have already developed a dislike for him, as happens sometimes, would there be any new thing about him that could possibly turn you around so that you would actually start to like him? Liking Achilles.
Yes, well, and I should say in advance that my impression is that people who are very young tend to dislike Achilles more. People who get on in years, like myself, tend to understand him better.
Yeah. Some participants think that the question is too early because they haven't had the time to see Achilles in action, you know, since he's the best of the Achaeans, but they don't see him fighting until the end. So they say it's too early to tell.
And the problem is when he does start fighting, he's berserk. To use that wonderful Old Norse word, where you just lose control of all mental faculties and you just give yourself over to red hot rage, the warrior's rage. Yeah. So I'm not sure people will start liking him when he goes on his man-killing binge.
There is so much dislike towards him. One participant said he's sitting in his tent like a lazy bum and spends his time singing epic poems with his best friend. And when he wants something is done, he calls his mom, who is a goddess, for help to solve the problems for him. So now we are questioning the idea of hero.
Well, maybe not the idea of hero, because the ancient idea, which is what we have to try to wrap our minds around, the ancient idea is that this person has been so dishonored that he deserves to sit it out. So I don't think people question, people used to question in the ancient world the fact that he's sitting it out for as long as he has. That's one thing. Second thing is his mother is the most all-powerful goddess that you can imagine. The only minus for Thetis is that she is not an Olympian. She is not worshipped everywhere, but where she is worshipped, she is the creatrix of the universe. She mothers a child who has unlimited potential, a child who would have overthrown Zeus if the mother had had sex with Zeus himself. So there you are. Achilles gets a lot of respect in the ancient world, precisely because he's the kind of hero that he is. Now, whether people liked him, I'll make it even more intense. I think people not only liked him, they loved him. And it's arguably legitimate to say that in the ancient world, the very mention of Achilles would make people cry, and not just women, but men. Not just women or children or other sectors of society where in other societies, it's more okay to cry. This is something that everybody cries about. And the death of Achilles is so painful that, in a sense, the death of Patroclus in place of Achilles is like a way to cushion the blow. So I love to tell people, look, we may not like him, but they loved him. That's the problem for us. And I love, Jan, our participants' tongue-in-cheek worst case scenario for how to look at Achilles. But
on the plus side, somebody's been comparing him to Agamemnon. So compared to Agamemnon, anybody's good. But they also like and respect how he stood up for him, and also from our modern sensibilities, seeing him as a positive side, that he is able to play the lyre and be affectionate, love his friends. It's not just all about rampaging on the battlefield for us.
And another way to look at it, and maybe this will comfort our participants, especially those who have already developed a very negative impression of Achilles, is that if you like Patroclus, then that is the other side of Achilles, the kinder, gentler Achilles, the one who really gets activated only in other phases of the story, which we don't see, but we see Patroclus being the very nice person that he is. Can I say nice?
He's pretty good on the battlefield too, so give him credit.
Great on the battlefield. Yes, he's just not quite as good as Achilles.
Well, I've got my eye on the clock, so I hate to do this, but I have to press pause on our conversation for now.
But before you do, dear Keith, could I just say that I just love the reactions of our participants. So keep on reading, keep on questioning. You're doing great.
All right. See you all next time.